So in the studio today, we've got the Asrock Steel Legend 7900 GRE graphics card. Now the 7900 GRE was launched a little while ago, and for my opinion, they are a great card for the price, beating easily a 4070 Super and actually rubbing toe to toe with a 4070 Ti in a lot of cases. And considering this is a lot cheaper, pretty much the same price as a 4070, this is great value for money. So let's unbox it and take a look. Now, this Asrock, although it's a slightly more premium than some of the cheaper 7900 GREs, still very bare bones in the box. We get the graphics card itself with a few of the little plugs covering the ports, as you do with most graphics cards these days. And then in the box we get a little manual, and that is it. It really is quite bare bones. Now the card itself does feel very premium. So let's quickly weigh it, see how much it is if you're putting it in your case. So 1.2 kilograms for this card. That is pretty heavy, and it does feel it. It's a very dense graphics card. Now, as you can see, it's a 3-fan variant, and it is RGB fans, so it's quite nice if you're looking for a little bit of bling in your case. Now, it is a white card, and we do have a nice metal backplate. So it is a good looking and good feeling card. Now, I've bought this to go into a white Micro ATX case, but something you do need to be aware of is it is quite large, and it's just under 3 slots thick. So let me just quickly get a tape measure so you can see the size of this graphics card, see if it will fit in your case. So we're talking about 305 millimeters from the bracket to the actual end of the card, and approximately 54 millimeters in depth. And we're talking about 12 centimeters in height. So it is a good sized card. So if you're looking to buy this in a tiny ITX case, you may struggle. With regards to the power connectors, we're still using the old 8-pin PCIe power connectors, and you do need 2 of them, but most modern power supplies will have at least both that, and you will probably want a decent sized power supply. I would say at least 650 watts, and a good quality one as well for a heavy graphics card like this. Now another feature that I know people will ask, the fans do have the 0 decibel stop mode when it's just on idle, not doing a lot, so that is quite handy. So if you do want a very quiet PC when you're working, that is quite a nice feature. So now we're going to quickly install this in my Micro ATX case, and we're going to fire it up and test a few games. So first things first, obviously you need to make sure you've got at least 3 slots spare for the graphics card, and need to make sure that the length of the card will fit your case. I've got a decent size Micro ATX case here which will fit, but it doesn't leave me a lot of gap to the bottom of the case. Now, once you have cleared out the PCI brackets, if you're putting in for a fresh card, slide in your graphics card to the PCI Express slot, screw in the actual 2 screws into the brackets. Then you need to take your 2 8-pin PCIe power connectors from your power supply and plug it into the card. And that's pretty much all there is to it. You'll then boot into Windows, or format and install Windows, and then install the AMD drivers from AMD.com. Very simple, and then you're up and running, and time to start playing some games. Now the first thing I want to mention is this is quite a small Micro ATX case. There isn't a lot of space between the actual base of the actual case and the actual start of this card. So I was worried about airflow and temperatures, but I really didn't need to. I think they've really over-engineered the heatsinks and 3-fan setup for this card itself. So when we are gaming in this case, which is to say doesn't have a massive amount of ventilation like some of the bigger ATX cases, the temps were still sitting in the 50s to 60 degrees C with only 30% fan speed on these actual fans. That really is absolutely nothing. I can hardly hear the graphics card at all over the case fans, and this is a very quiet case, so that's something I'm really impressed with. And 50 to 60 centigrade on heavy gaming with a card like this is very impressive. And it does take between 250 to about 280 watts under load, so you know it is using a fair amount of wattage. Now this card will easily drive games on a 1440p high refresh screen, no problems at all. And the fact that it has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, unlike the 4070 and old 4070 Ti, which only had 12 gigabytes, is the icing of the cake. So you don't need to worry about setting everything up to ultra or high, especially with those high texture packs. Now in the game in itself, I've tried my usual mix of finals, Call of Duty, and Battlefield, and at 1440p on my ultra-wide monitor, this thing absolutely cut through it. Now this Micro ATX PC that I've built is kind of a mid-range price build, and I've used a 6-core AMD Ryzen 7600X CPU. It's a good entry-level CPU in my opinion if you're going for the 7000 series range, and with this card it has cut through all the games like butter. I'm really impressed with the performance, and I'm also very impressed with the actual temperatures and fan noise of this card. So if you can fit a card like this, I definitely think it's well worth the price. Plus the fact it is really good looking with the white aesthetics and the RGB fans. So overall, I think this is an absolutely great buy. You're getting a lot more value for your money than you do with Nvidia. And I know people obviously moan in the past about AMD drivers, but that hasn't been the case for years. So this personally is really good. The only reason that the Nvidia is potentially better is they do run a little bit less wattage and they are slightly better at ray tracing. But for the games I play, and I'm not that bothered about ray tracing, this is an absolute steal. So those are my thoughts on the Asrock Steel Legend 7900 GRE. As always, if you've got any questions, pop it down below and I will get back to you. And lastly, thanks for watching.